are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic.
Are you?
I am.
We have been sitting here having a discussion about how you're going to be in a year is totally, health-wise, eye vision-wise, is totally dependent on what you're doing now and what you have done up until now.
Yes. I'm constantly trying to encourage patients to think about, you can't do a thing about yesterday, nothing. So you have today and then in the future. And given your lack of knowledge on health and the interconnectedness of a gut, a brain, the body, the exercise, the diet, just what's your future look like? I have, people have between 0 to 100% of a problem. Insert any problem here. And people don't get motivated typically until there's 30 to 40% bad. And when they come in, and so in the past 4 work days, I've had just a run on unfortunate diabetic retinopathy patients. These 2 brothers came in, both of them have it. One is totally blind in one eye, and like he can't see the big E in the other eye, and it's not coming back. It's an advanced scarred problem, and they're sitting here. Well, what can I do? What food should I eat? And the answer is, well, it's too late. And so then I had a new patient in yesterday. His last diabetic eye exam was 5 or 6 years ago, and you can tell by the characteristics of his retina that he's had problems for years. And so the family doctors and the endocrinologists are forever saying, you got to get your eye exam, your yearly eye exam. And usually they're not eventful.
But the problem is,
yes, sir,
that we have been ingrained and I think we turned the corner in realizing that your dental health can affect your whole body.
Without a doubt.
But the education with respect to that your whole body can affect your eye health is way down on the bottom of the ladder.
Well, yeah. Well, it's I try to have.
Maybe it's because eyes are so high up on the head.
I'm sorry. I have moments to make impressions with people, and so what I'd say to that is
that's a great point.
What I would say is, if you're sitting in a hot tub and somebody on the other side goes potty, it's going to get around to you, and your body's no different. If you have a fire going on somewhere in your body, it's all connected, and so people want to sweep it under the rug. And now the good news is there's a lot of people make great changes. I have this long story short, one great thing in October of this past year, I re-met a patient. I've been doing this for 31 years. I re-met a patient and I took care of him like 6 to 20 and life took him other places. He's 31 and he came in and he was like, hey, hugs and how you doing and whatnot. And he had put on, he's 100 pounds overweight. And when he left, I didn't know that I made this impression on him until he came back 5 months later, and when I challenged him, he recalls, I don't remember this, when he was walking out the door and I challenged him to lose weight and do some things and consider fasting, I pointed him in that direction. And I said, I bet you won't do it, because most people don't.
Sure.
And he took that as a challenge, came back in, it was 4 or 5 months later, and he had lost 56 pounds. And what he did was he just went with both feet. And he has all these people following him. And I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back. And he says, it's not because of me, it's because of Peter. Well, it's not because of Peter, it's because of Dr. Fung. It's because of this one and that one. So I'm a networker, and I just try to introduce to patients information. I study every day. It's a part of my mission statement and what I do. This weekend, for instance, I had a meeting at our house, and it was called, I named it the ESACID meeting. And it's a jingle, and you're going, what the heck is ESACID? That's right, yeah. And so it was the disease reversal meeting. So if you spell disease backwards, the only way you can say it is like ESACID. I looked at it 20 times, and so it's kind of interesting. Oh, it's as simple as disease reversal. I get it. Well, the interesting thing is it's 2 syllables going forward, it's 3 syllables going backward, and it's hard to say. And so disease reversal is hard to do. And the hardest thing to do is for the human being to change. Most people cause their own problems, and they want to blame it on genetics and or this, that, and the other. And I get you with all that. It's not excuse making, but sometimes it is. Aside, your genes are turned on and turned off all the time, and so if you're sitting here and I say your health is like a pond of ice and there's thin ice and thick ice, stay away from the thin ice. Don't jump up and down on your thin ice, the areas of risk from all the different reasons. So this.
So, bottom line is, if your weakness is Hostess Twinkies, don't walk down that aisle of the
That
store.
should be everyone's weakness. and so on this they said discussion, because it was a discussion. I cobbled together from Charlottesville to Chapel Hill a world-renowned authority on iron, magnesium, copper, and oxidation. His name's Morley Robbins. Look him up. He's got 180,000 followers on his Facebook page. 2 physicians, 2 pharmacists, a chiropractor, and a phenomenal LPN who has a apothecary up in outside of Richmond with 500.
What is an apothecary?
Your pharmacy, your herbal pharmacy.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Kristen has 500 botanicals. Matter of fact, we're walking around my place and just I'm showing her where I live, and she goes, "Oh, look at that!" And it was a weed. And she goes, "Oh, that's used for herpes and syphilis, and the roots are used for this, that, and the other." And you go, "Wow!" And it's all right here. It's all right here. So this discussion we had was about oxidation, rust. It was about minerals. The fact that, if you think about a horse, how at Wyatt Wearneck Produce do you get a better head of broccoli than you do from the Mexican or Chinese farm that's full of petrochemicals and God knows what? And, the horses used to be fed oats and alfalfa, which are rich in copper. And when they eat it, you get it in their poop, and the poop is used to fertilize the plants, and it ends up in the plants. And our world is becoming deficient in all these macro and micro minerals.
You're saying we don't have enough poo in the world.
Well, we do have politicians, so we got plenty of that. And
I gave you that one, by the way.
That was a softball pitch. And so the interesting thing is, Morley and I are sitting around, and I came up with this. How do you communicate it to people? And I came up with, instead of the 7 days of the week, how they started, it's the 7 days of oxidation. And I'm going to keep it simple, but you have to go to the root cause of why we're sick. So I'm going to start this off by saying oxygen is poison. And you're going, what? And so so on the first day of the earth, in the beginning there was light. Well, in the beginning there was, insert whatever you want here. So let's not have any arguments about in the beginning. Okay. So in the beginning something happened. Day 1. So on day 2, we have this rock called the Earth, and there was no oxygen. There was iron, like, I don't know, is it 40% of the Earth is made of iron? There's sulfur, and there's water. The atmosphere was probably nitric oxide, methane, and this, that, and the other. And so that's day 2, no oxygen. So no oxygen, no rust. No oxidation. So on day 3, you have this bacteria in this watery, oxygenless earth, and these are conclusions that are made by other people, scientists, papers written on this stuff. It's not my ideas. I'm just keeping it simple. So on day 3, you have this bacteria, cyano, a blue bacteria, cyanobacteria, cyanide, or the blue color blue, and it creates oxygen, water, and oxygen. So there was 1 oxygen molecule, then there's 2, then there's 4. And by the time, not my words, this is the science, the deductions, by the time there's 0.1% of oxygen on this earth, 99% of all other life on the earth at that time died because of rust, because of the interplay of this new thing called oxygen on the earth. That's day 2. So now we have this introduction of these minerals, and now we're making oxygen. Day 3, we're saying, okay, boom, we're getting a bunch of oxygen on the earth. And this is the day 3 thing. So now we're getting up to this, whatever percent, like right now we have like 18 to 20% oxygen on the earth. And now this is just throwing a little bit of Peter in there with these things.
I'm trying to follow.
Okay, so we didn't have oxygen. Now we do with iron. We're getting oxidation and rust, and the oxygen concentration's going up. And I just think, just my spidey senses and putting stuff together, that we used to have a higher barometric pressure on the earth. We used to live on these dinosaurs that were gargantuan, that if you Jurassic Parked a dinosaur today, it would probably collapse under its weight. It couldn't walk around, and it probably needed more oxygen at the time. So let's just say that there was 40% oxygen on the earth, or some bigger number. And these big plants are growing, and you've seen all this stuff in the books on that stuff. And so that's
Don't look for the statues, though. They've already been taken
and
down.
so the next day is some sort of cataclysmic event. Now we're on day 5. If I'm mixing my days up here. So
right.
day 5, there's something that happened that caused this oxygen concentration to come down. Let's say the meteor hit the earth.
Okay.
And so that goes on. Now we're on day 6. And day 6, we decided, was around 1900. And why would I make day 6 1900? Well, we're in the year 2020, and it's nice to look at processed foods. It's look at how we've kind of ruined this earth quickly after the Industrial Revolution, and how we prepare food and process foods. And we've caused. There's a great book. People need to go to cureamd.org, cureamd.org. And it's a $10 book, maybe $15 if you get it in color. And this doctor, this ophthalmologist, matter of fact, goes and has graph after graph after graph showing how the incidence of all these diseases happen with the incidence of cottonseed oil and vegetable oil and processed foods and whatnot. And so we're in day 6 right now, where our copper's depleted, or our oxidative events are growing higher, our inflammation is greater. We have this iron overloaded world, and now day 7 is, quote, tomorrow. So we're yet to see day 7, and day 7 in a perfect world will be a day where we collectively, take better care of our bodies, our populace, our people. And so as an eye doctor, sitting around for 6 hours with these people, all kicking around ideas so we can take them back to our patients. We have this interaction between all of us, because I'll pick up the phone 3 times in the day and call up somebody else and on speakerphone and talk to that doctor, that authority on that subject, saving a referral, getting the information, learning a little bit more. And we all do this stuff. And we just love it. Love it. So
if I were in that room with all of you guys, my ears would be buzzing so loud. My information overload would just, I would have to run out screaming.
Well, it was, it was kind of cerebral. And but
the bottom line in all this is, I know where I wanted to go before I get to the bottom line. You quickly went over fasting.
Yes.
When you talk about fasting, are you talking about fasting for a 24-hour period twice a week, a 12-hour period twice a week? What kind of fasting are you talking about?
So on the foundation is, 1, we eat too much, too wrong, and too often. Okay?
Right.
People have to know that. A foundation. There are studies after studies, and go to Google Scholar, go to YouTube, go look up Rhonda Patrick and fasting. You'll see that case after case of the rats, the mice, the rabbits, the this, that, and the other, that are given a little bit of food and in their cages and their lifestyles, and they live longer, healthier lives, period, no discussion. And so we eat 3 meals a day, and we shouldn't. We don't have to. I say to people, if I locked you up in a jail cell and I had total control over you and I gave you water, would you die in a day? No. Would you die in 2 days? No. Would you die in 3 days? No. So when I ask you to not eat for a day, you go, I can't do it. And so, with the caveats of you got to be careful.
That was a good invitation, by the way.
And so what happens is we need to look at what we eat and why we eat it. The longest, oldest, healthiest people on this earth are low oxidation people, okay? So, and back to this whole oxidation thing. So you eat less food, and when you do eat it, it's mineral rich, and there's not a lot of it. And so sugar's bad and all this sort of stuff. So in fasting, I was in a habit. I'd fast 4 days in a row where I had nothing but water.
For 4 days?
Oh, yeah.
Every week?
I did it a few times, and what I have done, and I have patients who follow me, and a few, and it's kind of funny because we'll kind of text each other during the day, how you doing, what's going on, and so skipping Mondays. You eat Sunday night, you don't eat until Tuesday lunch, and you have water, and you're not going to die. And I have a little cheat in that I have a cup of bone broth in the evening, which gives me some minerals and this, that, and the other. Just go buy a good quality bone broth. Making it, I can do it, but it's a lot of work. And but I've gone 4 days, and the weight falls off, the mental clarity's there, and your body's purging itself of a lot of stuff. You go through these steps. Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G, out of Canada, endocrinologist, phenomenal guy. I like what he says. And so you can go listen to him on YouTube, his lectures, and he has a book, The Complete Guide to Fasting. So in terms of steps, maybe you reduce yourself to 2 meals.
We don't have time to go through, but when you come back the next time,
yes, sir,
I do want to talk about fasting because it's an interesting thing that has come up a lot in conversations nowadays. But I want to talk about the different ways you can fast, and the positive effects of each way.
Okay.
All right.
Happy to.
All right. Dr. Wilcox, the Wilcox Eye Center. Now, phase 2, office hours.
Oh, I never quit seeing patients during this whole thing. We're back up to full steam in terms of hours. We had to go play around with some stuff during this COVID stuff, but we've been there and still there. And so, yeah, I
like to point out that sometimes when we talk to Dr. Wilcox, you can feel like you're walking on another planet. Where a lot of people walk around saying things that I walk behind them going, huh? What? But the Wilcox Eye Center deals in everything that we're talking about and just a simple pair of glasses if that's what you need and want.
Yes.
So
yes, true.
Right?
I'm a classic optometrist, and I do a lot of unclassical things that go to problems that you didn't even know there were answers for, and that'll have to be another conversation.
Again, when you first started coming in, it was like, oh my goodness, and every time you come in here, I feel like I learned something. But then it's a matter of, am I going to put it into practice?
That's the trick.
Yeah, thanks. Way to make me feel bad now. It's Dr. Wilcox, the Wilcox Eye Center. They're down at the Point. Can't miss them. Some weeks. How do you figure out when you're going to have your big red sign outside?
Big red sign.
Sometimes you have a red sign.
Well, I shared that with the chiropractor next door. They're not there anymore, so I'm just I'm now keeping that position, and because the other people don't need that rotation or want that. So yeah, I try to mix it up, and it's another thing to do to make sure that we swap out the signs.
As you're heading down towards the bridge, you're going to be on the right hand side.